other liquor associations, has made submissions to President Cyril Ramaphosa to allow off-consumption outlets to sell beer. Their submissions include that the sale of beer be allowed with certain restrictions regarding good hygiene practices, social distancing, trading hours, and restrictions on volumes sold. BASA says they are supporting government's efforts to protect South Africans against the spread of COVID-19. However, the strict liquor regulations have resulted in many outlets shutting their doors, with several people being retrenched. For more on this, we're now joined via Skype by BASA CEO Patricia Pillay. A very good afternoon to you, Patricia, and thank you very much for joining us here on SABC News SA Today.
Hi, good afternoon.
Patricia, let's just start with your argument and some of the submissions that you have sent through to government around wanting the relaxation of rules when it comes to the sale of alcohol. I see that some of the submissions that you're sending is the fact that people have had to be retrenched. But when we're dealing with life and death issues, what is more important if you look at it?
I think we need to strike a balance between people's health and safety and also their livelihoods. I think it's very important that we need to realize that there is life after COVID. I think we need to realize that it's important that people are able to earn a living. Not everyone has the luxury of being at home and actually still earning a salary. People still need to feed themselves. And I think we can't forget that. So it is important, yes, that we keep people safe. And that's part of what our submission is that if we do open up, we are reasonable, we make sure that there's health safety regulations in place.
Now, Patricia, shouldn't your submission to government, to President Cyril Ramaphosa, rather be, President, we're struggling financially, we're having to lay people off. What can you do as a government to make sure that we stay afloat financially? As you would have heard, the President did say that there would be funds available made to businesses. Surely that should rather be your submission. The fact that we want our workers to stay home, to stay safe, but at the same time, of course, we want them to come back to work and to have those jobs that are waiting for them. But you're not going to have staff if these people are dying, are you?
I think we also need to work together, and we cannot put further strain on the fiscus. If you look at the funds that have been opened up, some of them are already exhausted. I think that we need to be aware that as much as there are funds available, a lot of them are already capacitated. I think we need to also be reasonable. There are many industries that are in this position that we find ourselves in. I think that we need to be reasonable and find a balance where we can have safe situations where certain people can get back to work in safe environments. I think we need to explore these options. So working with government, we need to be able to find these solutions. It's not practical that everyone in the country can have access to these remedies.
So I would assume then that you've looked at what safety measures you would then be taking to ensure, if at all, your workers are allowed to come back to work. What are the sort of safety measures, and have you really looked into what perhaps other those that are having to work, continue to work, what they are doing? I mean, you can look at hospitals. Some of the nurses and doctors are still getting affected. And in those cases, you have a situation where everybody seems to have been protected as much as possible. You, as the Beer Association of South Africa, how are you going to be able to sort of implement those strict measures when places like hospitals themselves are struggling to implement strict measures to stop their employees from contracting COVID-19?
So ours is a contactless solution. So we are not proposing that people sit down in a environment at all. It is purely contactless. So it's either by delivery, so where you actually get the goods delivered to you at your homes, or it will be a matter of you pick up and go. So a takeaway environment. So it's very easy for you to actually come in. You're not spending a lot of time. You're protected. There is social distancing that takes place between you and then the actual point of sale. There's proper hand sanitizers available. And so there's very little contact that can take place.
Well, I want to introduce another topic to, throw something else into this conversation. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that the gender-based violence stats at this time during lockdown are up, and these are only some reported cases. There are some cases that haven't even been reported, and it is said that, where there is alcohol, that's where we start to see more problems, and people behaving even more badly when you introduce that element. Are you aware of that? And I mean, I can't even say to you, is there anything you can do to help the associations dealing with gender-based violence? But are you aware of the fact that this could cause even more problems, especially for those that are in vulnerable situations? And we're talking about women, we're talking about children. Are you aware of the fact that this could implement them significantly in a negative way?
This is such an emotive topic, and being a woman myself, I can tell you that it's something that's very close to my heart. I think the message that we are really relaying out there is that you need to drink responsibly. And I think our sister organization, aware.org, is promoting this all throughout the year, not only during the time of COVID. It is very important that we support campaigns where we absolutely go against any form of abuse, whether it's child abuse, women abuse, any kind of abuse of alcohol that results in this kind of behavior. So we are aware that this may be one of the causes, but it is a time now where we all need to work together and stand together, and we call for absolute responsible use of alcohol, and that everyone is feeling frustrated, everyone is fearful, but we actually work together to ensure that we get through this crisis.
Now, what is the plan exactly when it comes to the Beer Association of South Africa? You would know that, there are informal settlements, there are townships where, people are drinking, and when they do drink, they do tend to get violent. Apart from the gender-based violence aspect of the situation, I mean, these are people that are quite literally living on top of each other. I don't know if you've seen some of the visuals. We've gone as SABC to Alexandra Township, where you have shacks in such close proximity to each other. Now, when you introduce, alcohol to an already volatile situation where government is already battling to a certain degree to keep people, that social distance in those areas, in squatter camps, bringing that element of alcohol into the mix. Are you not aware, as the Beer Association of South Africa, that you could be causing further problems to what we're trying to prevent, as government is trying to prevent at this time?
I think we also need to be aware of what's already happening in those areas as well, is people are frustrated. There's looting that's already happening. There's already violence that's happening as a result of alcohol that's being sold, that's not being sold. So what's happening is this whole operation has gone underground. People are now brewing their own concoctions, which is resulting in people's health being affected. It's actually very dangerous. People are now turning to illegal alcohol that's being sold. Shops are being broken into. So, it's easy to also comment on the other end of it, but let's look at what's already happening by not selling the alcohol. So it is a concern already for us, the fact that we're going to an extreme measure, and I just feel that we can find a middle ground. We need to, yes, be aware that the sale of it might result in a certain behavior, but we need to find a middle ground so people are also not desperate and behaving now in a manner of thuggery that's currently happening.
All right, Patricia Pillay, this is certainly a story that we will continue to monitor here at SABC News. Thank you very much for giving us your time here.